Hey folks, it's Nate. It's time I got back to the drawing board, and tonight I want to wrap up my series on through creative process by talking a bit about layouts. Now, I know you're probably thinking, isn't there a little bit more to it than that? Well, yeah. I mean, there's the drawing and the inking and whatever digital stuff you're going to do, but when it comes to that, I don't think I really have a whole lot to add beyond what you can already find out there. Um, I'm a self-taught, fairly amateur artist, so yeah, you could probably find much better sources for that kind of information than me. And really, I just want to talk about layouts because the layouts are something I only started doing in the last 3 or 4 months, and they have been extremely helpful. So if you're an aspiring artist, and especially if you're self-taught, you may think that layouts aren't that big a deal, and I understand that because I was one of those guys for a while. So I want to talk a little bit about not so much how I do layouts, but what I get out of doing layouts. So the big thing is, well, the first thing is it helps me check composition. Like everyone knows the basic rules of composition. You want your rules of three. You want to kind of divide your paper into thirds. Your panels should be like a third roughly of each space. So you can see here, like this page breaks down into three, roughly one third of the page strips, and then this top strip is broken into again three roughly equal panels. So that's a kind of thing you look for. Another thing you want to look for is you want to check the perspective of your shots. So like here we open on a close-up of the shield, and then we move to, this is kind of a middle shot of two people working on fixing a hole in a boat, and the shield and the person holding it kind of frames it, but it's more of a middle shot than a close-up. Here we have another middle shot, and then we move back to an extreme wide shot that allows you to see everything that's going on. Another thing that it lets you do is it lets you make sure you're having the impact you want. If you watched my video on failing faster, you probably know already that this is the second draft of this page that I've done. On my first draft, I was extremely unsatisfied with the center panel. I wanted the emphasis to be on the character picking up the boat, which I didn't feel was the emphasis you got from the panel I drew. It was much more close in. You just saw his head kind of poking up above the boat. The boat dominated the frame. I didn't like that. But if I had, started drawing this on just my 11 by 17 paper, I probably would have drawn that frame, and I would have either wasted the page or wasted a lot of time erasing it. Of course, drawing it first, then realizing that I didn't like it. So doing this layout really helped me catch that. Another thing it has been really, really helpful for me on is storytelling. So here we have another page, and on this page, between the first four panels, really there's two time jumps here. So previously we've established that this woman is living in Britain during the Second World War. And then here we have a shot of her meeting a soldier from the US. And we see she's wearing a ring. And then we see this house, and the flag is flying the American flag, not the Union Jack. So this establishes that after the war, they moved back to the United States. And when I first drew this page, I knew there was going to be a time jump, because you see from panel 4 here, they're sitting in their living room, and the shield is up on the wall because that's the unifying theme here. And then there's this old transistor radio. And then in this next panel, you see that now there's a flat screen TV on the wall, and the furniture has been rearranged, and of course the woman is now very old. And I wanted to do that to show a time jump. And originally, this is again my second draft of this page. Originally, I did not have panel 3 or panel 6 here. They were other things which I cut. And I created these panels to drive home the idea that time has passed. So you have a tree outside in this panel, and it's very young, and then here it's very old. And sure, it's grown taller, yeah. So you can tell time has passed. So is that revolutionary? Is it groundbreaking? No, not really. But it wasn't until I drew out the page and I looked at it, and I thought, I thought about the images. It wasn't clear that time was passing. It wasn't clear that this shot and this shot were in fact the same room in the same house with the same people. And this could just be another room in the house with different furniture, or it could be new residents in the house, and they just brought in different furniture, stuff like that. So I want to make it very clear and unambiguous that time had passed, and that the occupants of the house were older. They're not able to go out and run off the flag every day. They're not in shape for that anymore because they're quite advanced in age. So there's no flag on the flagpole in this picture. So these are the kinds of things that I look for when I'm doing layouts. Look for visual storytelling. Look for the ebb and flow. Look for composition. Look for framing. Like again, using the leg and the shield to kind of frame this image here. That was not part of my script or my original plan for this, because I didn't actually write a script for this. There's no spoken dialogue or narration. So yeah, these were ideas that came to me as I was laying out, and I could rearrange stuff and test it. And since I'm not doing just about any rendering or putting a whole lot of detail in here, you can just snap through it real fast. You can iterate. You can find things that you like, what you don't like. So yeah, another thing is it makes it very easy to show it to other people and get their opinions. Here's the previous page where we established that the woman was in London during the Blitz. And when I did this page in particular, I did not draw the civilians or the Guardian here along the side of the street initially. I just, I did this first panel where you see, the Keep Calm poster to establish the time period. And then I showed the buildings, and then I showed the explosion. So, and I took these layouts and I showed them to someone, and I asked for their feedback. And one of the things they said is it wasn't very clear in this panel what was that this was an overhead view of this. And that's what I wanted to make clear. So I added these characters here so it would be clear that this was in fact, just an overhead view of that, or at least clearer. Hopefully it is clear. So yeah, another good thing about layouts is it gives you a fast and easy pass at your story and your visual storytelling, your framing, your composition, all those things that you can then take to someone else and get feedback on. If you had to do all your basic pencil work for your page before you took it and got feedback on it, and then you realized you had messed something up, something as significant as framing this middle panel here, and you had to completely redraw them, you're looking at a lot of time lost. Depending on the complexity of the page, maybe as many as 4 or 5 hours. Less for me because I'm not a very complex or skilled artist. But as you get better, it will probably take you longer to do your pencils. So you want one of these low time investment iterations so you can get feedback on it, so you can check it over yourself. So yeah, layouts. It's very easy to think, I probably don't need these, but I think that the more I've worked with them and at them, the more use I've found them to be. And another big benefit is they can be smaller than what you're actually working on, and you use lower quality paper. Like this is just printer paper. It's not even art paper. I just something I could sketch ideas on very quickly. So yeah, you can also save yourself a bit of money, if you are catching mistakes and not having to throw out your good quality drawing paper. Um, I'm sure professional artists never do that, right? Right? Maybe. Let's see. Anything else to say about layouts? No, I that's really all I have to say about the creative process there. It's another tool to, just like outlining lets you look at your story very quickly from a bird's eye view. Layouts let you think of your art in the same way. So yeah, really take advantage of that, and work at it, and I think your art will come out better. So yeah, that's all I have to say about layouts. I'm thinking that starting next week, instead of talking about the creative, well, excuse me, there is one more video I want to do on the creative process. I want to talk a little bit about brainstorming, so that's going to be next week. But after that, I did want to talk a little bit about character design, and elements of character design, and also the visual language in character design, because it's fine to just make a character design that looks really cool. But one of my problems, especially with the big two, is that there isn't a coherent visual language running through them. I'll talk more about that as we start talking about character design. And that's not entirely their fault, because they do have, a cast of characters that's been incorporated from a whole bunch of different sources. Anyways, yeah, I'll talk more about that when we start talking about character design. But that's the plans for upcoming. If any of my loyal viewers have a subject they'd like to see me cover, whether it's on writing process or art process, by all means, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. We can cover it a bit more. And that's all I got for now. So there's a like button, a subscribe button down below. Use them as you see fit. And I'll talk to you later.